Welcome back, adventurers, once again to another episode of Let's Play Chaos Head. In the last episode, despite his grievous wounds, Takumi pressed on against the never-ending hordes of his anime waifu, Sarah Orgel. But just as things were looking incredibly dire for our hapless hero, Takumi's imagination, for a single second, had managed to overcome the delusion created by Noah 2, and as a result, both the living and dead Sarah Orgels magically transformed into a bunch of anime paraphernalia. But that was only the first test, and that means that there is much more to be expected down the road. And speaking of which, Takumi has finally made it to the planetarium, where Genichi is housed, Noah too. But he is here somewhere, and he has been waiting this whole time. Noah too rose in state. A chill in the air stole away my body heat. And then there was the object dart that had been made to stand beside Noah too. An object that had once contained the body of Nanami Nishijo, and now contains someone else.
Rimi.
Indeed. Rimi, who had been fastened to it, slowly raised her head when she noticed my voice. Our eyes met. Her eyes went wide. You should have known it would come to this, Rimi, one way or the other. In spite of your efforts to try and prevent the situation, Takumi was going to go down this road regardless, after everything that happened with the new generation madness. And even if he didn't, Genichi Narose would have done everything in his power to make sure that he did. And in effect, Genichi has already done that by torturing Nanami, by bringing about the third melt, by wreaking havoc all across Shibuya. Which of course brings us to this very point. And of course, she understands that because Takumi has awakened, Shogun's life is all but over.
君を助けに
The light in her eyes flickered. Especially considering the fact that Rimi, like Takumi and the Sarah Orgels, is also a delusionary existence. She shook her head sadly.
そんなキスだらけになって
Yeah, that is kind of Takumi's fault there.
そんな無茶して待っててって言ったのになんで
Because I love you. Because I love you, Rimi. But I didn't put it into words. I couldn't say something along the lines of, I love you, so I've come to rescue you, like this, drenched in blood, my arm crushed to a pulp. I look nothing like a prince on a white horse, and she'd definitely find it to be nasty and creepy, It would pretty much make me the equivalent of a stalker. If I conveyed my feelings to her one-sidedly, it would only bother her. And yet those feelings are not as one-sided as you might believe. From here on out she would go on living. From here on out I would soon die. If someone on the verge of death went off and decided to tell you their feelings, it would just leave you with a bad aftertaste. Which is why I didn't speak of how I felt.
意味にこれを返したくて
My weak right hand. The hand still holding my D-sword. Desperately using those fingers, I pulled out a handkerchief out from near my heart. A soft vermilion. I couldn't tell if that were its original color or if my blood had soaked into it. It didn't give off a floral scent anymore. Something Rimi had given me. One of the irreplaceable memories I'd received from her.
僕は君をここから助け出してノア2を壊してこのハンカチを返すんだ
It was all I could do. If I saw those things through to completion, I could vanish without regrets. Unfortunately for you, Takumi, there is one individual standing in the way of those plans, and his name is Genichi Narose. Besides, it didn't seem like I'd be able to accomplish anything else. For a while now, I'd been having the hallucination that all my senses had gone numb. Maybe the excess of pain had made my brain start blocking off those sensations, which were being transmitted through however many of my nerve endings. I couldn't move my body well. Blood kept dripping from my arm. My eyes were going cloudy. It was incredibly cold. If I weren't careful, I'd probably pass out. Which in this situation should be the least of your worries.
君は実に勇敢ですね。
I don't need your snide applause there, Genichi. The tall man, Genichi Narose, emerged from Noah 2's shadow. Expressionless, he faced me and clapped with feigned innocence.
しかし、致命的なことが一つあります。
If you're going to say mortality, I've already beaten you to the punch.
行動原理が感情に根ざしているということです。それは野蛮人のすることだ。
And you're not, with your plans to use Noah 2 to manipulate reality itself. I didn't really understand what this man was saying. I was frantically working to take in and deal with my pain, and I didn't have the spare room to comprehend other people's words, Rimi accepted.
逃げて
小を犠牲にして大の利益を守る。それを悪だと思いますか？
Considering the fact that nothing that you have done can be considered good, definitely, I would say.
私はそうは思いません。
Well, I certainly do.
このままでは人類はいずれ滅び去る。
You destroying humanity itself on your own terms doesn't change the situation.
人の欲望によってです。
And yet your human avarice and arrogant conceit, yeah,
あまりにも醜い心。
as ugly as yours.
あまりに利己的な欲望の洪水。
You do realize that everything that you're talking about is a reflection of your own state of being and existence, Genichi Narose.
人の社会はすでに破綻し、腐り落ちようとしています。
As are you.
誰もが己のことしか考えず、その結果殺し合い、奪い合っています。
And meanwhile, you have pretty much killed almost everyone in Shibuya using Noah 2. Congratulations. Also, you're as selfish as they are.
君もギガロマニアックスとして覚醒したのなら見たはずですよ。人の心の本質を。
We've seen the essence of your heart, Genichi, and it is a truly rancid thing indeed.
私は幼い頃に覚醒したため、もう何十年という間、それを見てきた。
He's either being metaphorical here, or it could be that Genichi Narose himself is actually a gigolomaniac as well. That's bad, because if he is truly a gigolomaniac, Genichi's powers combined with that of Noah 2 could actually be,
300人委員会は人類の自滅を阻止するためという大義名分のもと、世界人間牧場計画を推し進めてきました。
I've already seen the Committee of 300's ambitions on the Alpha World Line, Genichi Narose, and it is anything but noble.
けれどそれも所詮、彼らのエゴを満たすものでしかない。
Meanwhile, Noah 2 is a way for you to stroke your own ego, you pathetic bastard.
私が目指すのはそんなものではありません。
Did you hear a word I just said?
悟ったのですよ。
Oh goody, you're actually a follower of the Church of Divine Light as well, despite having murdered its founder.
この腐った世界を再生するためには、社会のシステムを変えるのではなく。
It is a very good thing that Genichi Narose will never possess the phone wave real name TBA, because if this man ever possessed a device on that scale, his tampering with the world lines would be a true catastrophe.
世界中すべての人間の心を変える必要があるのだと。
How can you be expected to change the hearts of people who are dead?
そのためのプロジェクトノアです。ノア2があれば世界中すべての人間から負の妄想を消し去り、清廉な心へと漂白できます。
And yet, you haven't started with yourself. Your own negative delusions have already manifested upon the world.
争いは消え、世界に永遠の平和を与えることができます。
That's not how it works, unfortunately.
君も誰かに蔑まれることもなくなるでしょう。
And yet, the same cannot be said of you. I will hold you forever in contempt. His lengthy speech came to an end at last. I desperately braced my legs to keep from collapsing. I managed to get a little rest. It had saved me. And yet, like Emperor Palpatine in Return of the Jedi, Genichi Narose is not to be underestimated.
あんたの言ってることはもしかしたら正しいかもしれない。
Which, in all hindsight, it isn't. Not that I've been listening closely. If you were to take the future of humanity into consideration, his way was surely correct. It's not. A truly righteous point of view. Narose was the president of a large enterprise, and a man motivated by justice. he devoted thought to the entire human race. I hate to break it to you, Takumi, but Genichi Narose doesn't give a shit about the human race, or salvation, or justice. He is a man completely manipulated by his own self-interest, his arrogance, his hubris, his conceit, his pride, and his own fatal, flawed weaknesses. Even with the power of Noah 2 at his disposal, this truth is irrevocable and undeniable. He is a miserable, pathetic piece of shit. I was a monster and a virgin and a creepy otaku. A selfish and blatantly egotistical guy trying only to save the girl I loved. And yet you're a far better person than Genichi Narose will ever be. Under normal circumstances, I totally play the villain. Justice would defeat the monster and come out victorious. In which case Narose would lose because he is the villain of the set piece.
でも
And you are the lightning-fast Nightheart of Ensu.
僕はあんたには負けられない。
なぜ否定するのです？
Because everything that you've said is nothing but trash.
ただの自己満足だ。
As opposed to Genishi's self-satisfaction.
残念です。
His gaze fixed on me. Narose seized Rimi's shirt front and dragged her down from the object art. And in front of that sculpture, he extended his right hand to the side. At the same instant, the work of art, which should have been standing vertically, appeared to have installed itself in Narose's hand. It wasn't a piece of artwork or anything of the sort, and it certainly wasn't a cross made for crucifixions. A D-sword. And not a byproduct of Noah 2 either, at least to my knowledge. Which suggests that, yes indeed, Genichi Narose is in fact a gigolomaniac in and of his own right. All too massive to be called a sword, cruel and cold, a tool for sowing terror, a contaminated gospel, intricate chaos, sacrilege for violation, unadulterated wickedness. In other words, this D-sword here is a reflection of Genichi Narose's twisted black heart. Just like the door to hell, it would steal the hearts of those who saw it, tempting them into an cycle of endless suffering, completely belying everything that Genichi has uttered up until this point. What a surprise. Its shape blended in everything negative in the world into one whole, embodying all of it. And yet I thought we only had Noah 2 to deal with. But Genichi is a gigolomaniac. And that means his delusions can become manifest on his own terms. So we need to destroy them both, Genichi and Noah 2. Which is easier said than done, given what we've just been through. I gulped down a single breath. Even so, I made up my mind. I adjusted my grip on my D-sword, bound to my hand by a cord. Just the only lifeline keeping it in our possession. But that is going to bring an end to this episode of Let's Play ChäoS Head, and when we return, the fatal showdown between Takumi Nichijou and Genichi Narose will begin. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.